Meanwhile, it's Thomas's turn to head to Cromer and to hear the story of another former resident. Thomas is meeting Jackie Palmer, manager of the Henry Blogg Museum.
Hello, I'm Thomas.
Hi Thomas, nice to meet you.
This is beautiful.
It's lovely today, isn't it?
I bet you it's not so lovely on a stormy day.
No, this is one of the most dangerous coasts around Britain actually, and a place where the Royal National Lifeboat Institution really has a big input into saving lives at sea. And we've got a huge heritage here in Cromer of saving lives, especially through the most decorated crew member, Henry Blogg.
Henry Blogg was a man of the sea. By 11, he was working on the family crab boat. In 1894, aged 18, he joined Cromer lifeboat crew. By the time he was 33, Henry had become coxswain, in charge of the lifeboat and in command at sea. He would venture out with his crew in all weathers to rescue those in danger.
So Jackie, tell me, where are we standing now?
Well, we're actually on HF Bailey, which is the lifeboat that Henry Blogg was coxswain of from 1935 until 1945 here in Cromer.
How many men were there on this boat?
There were around 11 or 12 of a crew, so it was a fairly busy boat.
So how are they all mustered together?
Well, in 1935, a maroon would be fired from the end of the pier, which would send out a loud boom right across the town, and you would simply see a whole load of men rushing out of their homes with their boots under their arms, and when they got to the pier, they'd grab a life jacket and jump onto the lifeboat.
During 53 years of service, Henry saved 873 lives. The story of one rescue tells of the bravery of Henry and his crew.
That happened just off the coast here in Cromer.
Where we met?
Absolutely, just on the beach there. And you can see in some of these photographs how close they actually were.
Of course, we were almost here.
Yeah. This was December. The surf itself was horrendous. It's some of the worst gales that had come across this side of the country in decades. And the barge itself was pulled off course by the gales and the wind. The two men had to climb up into the rigging from the flooded deck just to stay dry.
So what happened? How did they get saved?
Well, initially when the maroon went off to sound the alarm, the motorboat and Henry Blogg and all of the number one crew were actually already on a rescue. Mm-hmm. So the only way that they could help was that the fathers and the uncles of the crew came down to help. And unfortunately they had the older boat, so they actually had to row against this surf to try and reach the barge. And they kept being pushed back onto the shore until they were completely exhausted. And the men all this time, you can imagine, just clinging on there. Freezing cold, watching the lifeboat fail.
As luck would have it, Henry and his crew learned of the stranded barge through Cromer Coast Guard.
Henry Blogg realised he also could not get alongside the barge. He took the lifeboat and he drove it right on top of the deck of the flooded barge. And if it got stuck there, then they would all lose their lives. However, they managed to pull the two men down onto the lifeboat. The lifeboat was damaged, so they actually crashed the lifeboat straight up onto the beach just outside the museum here in Cromer.
God, what a risk.
Absolutely.
What a risk.
He had a huge amount of skill, knowledge, understanding of the sea, a huge amount of determination, but also maybe a bit of luck.
Henry is the most decorated lifeboat man in RNLI history, with 7 medals for gallantry, the George Cross and the British Empire Medal. Henry retired in 1947 and died a few years later, aged 77. Thousands attended his funeral to say goodbye to their local hero.
So what sort of legacy do you think he's left?
Well, the biggest legacy is obviously all the lives that he saved, along with his crew. 873 people who had children of their own, who had grandchildren as well. That's such a legacy.